More than 75 million Americans gulp down food supplements each year, everything from vitamins and minerals to proteins, amino acids, and herbs. For the Food and Drug Administration, all those pills and powders and drinks could prove to be a headache if consumers get sick from taking them. So next week, the FDA plans to propose new rules on how supplemental foods can be marketed and sold. For the supplemental food industry, America's appetite for feel-better pills means a $4 billion a year industry. So it's gotten bills introduced in Congress that challenge the FDA's jurisdiction. Michael Evers is legislative coordinator for the Nutritional Health Alliance, which represents supplemental food manufacturers. And Bruce Silvergate has a similar job at the Center for Science and the Public Interest, a consumer organization. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. Now, the FDA says that it doesn't want to prevent anybody from taking what they want. They just want what's in the bottle to be safe, and they don't want claims being made that can't be substantiated. Michael, what's so unreasonable about that?
Well, if that's what they really wanted, Stone, that'd be fine. But that's not the history of the agency. They've always had an antagonism toward these products going well back into the 60s and 70s. They tried to put them onto prescription then and treat them as drugs. We feel that that's what they're trying to do now. That's their stated intention, is to remove many of these products from the market, make it more difficult for consumers to understand them, learn about them, get information on them. And ultimately, that's going to drive the cost of them up and drive many of them out of the market.
Bruce, Michael, and others from the industry say if the FDA has its way, we won't be able to buy chamomile tea without a prescription.
Well, the dietary supplement industry is using lots of scare tactics to try to get consumers to write Congress in support of legislation drafted by lawyers for the supplement industry. I mean, these bills in Congress are really snake oil promotion acts that are going to be a great benefit to manufacturers of dietary supplements at the expense of the consumer's pocketbook. And we're telling the public, don't be fooled. You see a sign in a health food store telling you that FDA is trying to take away your vitamins. It's not true. And don't waste a stamp on a letter to your congressman. Instead, ask the store to take down the sign and to just carry products that have honest health claims on the label.
Michael, isn't it possible that some of these supplementals ought to be recategorized, called drugs? I'm thinking about amino acids, some of these things.
Actually, that's what's proposed in the legislation offered by Congressman Richardson of New Mexico and Senator Orrin Hatch. They are proposing that the FDA take another look at these products and create an actual category of dietary supplements. You see, as it is now, what we have is foods and we have drugs, and the FDA really doesn't have the tools that it feels it needs to handle it. It regulates these things as foods, and sometimes it uses a hammer of the drug approval laws to deal with a problem that's really the size of a thumbtack.
One of the big points of contention here is what can or cannot be made in terms of claims. The FDA is saying that you ought to have what, general agreement among scientists, substantial evidence to back the claims. Industry is saying it ought to be more realistic, that as long as you have some scientific data to support it, you ought to be able to go along with it. Where is the public interest served in all of this, Bruce?
Well, in 1990, Congress passed a landmark consumer protection law called the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act, and it controlled the kinds of health claims that both food companies and dietary supplement companies can make for their products. Now, we're happy to say that the food industry is complying with this new law. Products such as breakfast cereals that had health claims on them that FDA felt were unsubstantiated have been taken off the labels. And we were very pleased that the cereal industry and other segments of the food industry are complying with this law. Unfortunately, the dietary supplement industry won a temporary exemption from the law last year. This year, they're lobbying for a permanent exemption, and this will undermine the credibility of supplements, because the point is that some supplements are very beneficial to health. We certainly recognize that, and we encourage consumers to take them. Calcium supplements, for example, are very important in reducing the risk of osteoporosis. But if this industry exemption becomes permanent, it'll be very difficult for consumers to tell the difference between health claims that are well supported by scientific evidence and others that promise a world of health benefits but really deliver only broken promises.
Potency and purity, two big issues here. Michael, don't those need to be regulated?
Stone, they are regulated. The FDA has all the regulatory tools that it needs. It's just not using them effectively. These products are saving lives. They're reducing the onset of many chronic diseases, and they're helping people achieve optimal health. This is not a problem. I mean, the FDA only commits 1%, less than 1% of its resources on dietary supplement. This is not a major problem for the agency. They're trying to make it a big problem and scare the American public into believing that there's problems in the marketplace when there aren't. The legislation that's been introduced by Hatch and Richardson address these concerns and address them effectively.
Michael Evers, Bruce Silvergate. We'll have to leave it there this morning. Thanks for joining.